So, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you are completely, totally outmatched, back against the wall with absolutely no good options left? Well, we're about to dive into an ancient military tactic that actually teaches you how to turn that very weakness into your most powerful weapon. It's called the empty fort strategy. Okay, just try to wrap your head around these numbers. Imagine you're a general. You've got 2,500 soldiers. That's it. And on the horizon, marching right for you, is a battle-hardened army of 150,000. These were the actual impossible odds facing the legendary strategist Zhuge Liang. I mean, the stakes just couldn't be any higher. So what's your move? Let's be real. Fighting is just suicide. Fleeing? No way. You're trapped. But what about that third option, the one that sounds completely insane? What if you just throw open the gates and practically invite them in? Let's break down one of the greatest psychological gambles in all of history. To really get the genius of this move, you first have to understand just how desperate the situation was. We're in the year 228 AD. Zhuge Liang's army just got hammered in a catastrophic defeat at the Battle of Jieting. His supply lines are gone, his main army is retreating, and he's now totally cornered in this tiny, basically defenseless city called Jieting. The hopelessness here is just staggering. Zhuge Liang had no high-ranking officers with him, only a handful of civil officials. And to make things even worse, about half of his few remaining soldiers weren't even there. They were off transporting grain. This was a true 60-to-1 disadvantage. His own officers knew it. Any conventional military move meant they were all dead. And this is where the whole story takes a sharp turn. It stops being a military disaster and becomes a masterclass in psychological warfare. Because instead of panicking, Zhuge Liang smiles. And then he starts issuing a series of commands so bizarre, so completely unthinkable, his own men probably thought he had lost his mind. Look at this contrast. It's just wild. Every military textbook, every bit of common sense, says you barricade the gates, you get your men on the walls, and you prepare to fight to the last man. Zhuge Liang does the exact opposite. He orders his men to hide all the army banners, throw open every single gate, and get this, have a few soldiers dress up like commoners and just calmly sweep the streets. And as for him, he asks for his musical instrument, a zither. So this is the scene that Sima Yi's massive army rolls up to. They get there expecting a fight, but they find the city gates wide open. And up on the wall, there sits Zhuge Liang. He's not in armor, he's wearing a simple Taoist robe, flanked by two young boys, just casually burning incense and playing music. His absolute calm is the entire performance. You gotta think, one wrong note, one flicker of fear in his eyes, and the whole thing comes crashing down. And here it is, the payoff. Sima Yi, who is a brilliant general himself, is just completely thrown. His own son is yelling at him, "It's a bluff, just attack." But Sima Yi, who knows his rival's reputation inside and out, makes a critical calculation. He concludes that this famously cautious man would never in a million years take such an insane risk, unless he had a massive hidden army just waiting to spring a trap. He immediately orders a full retreat. So you're probably asking yourself, how on earth did that actually work? Well, it wasn't magic. It was a deep, fundamental understanding of human psychology. To see how he pulled it off, we need to break down the cognitive biases that Zhuge Liang so masterfully used against his rival. Zhuge Liang's own words give us the secret sauce. See, he wasn't just bluffing. He was weaponizing his own reputation. He knew that Sima Yi saw him as a meticulous, risk-averse planner. So this incredibly risky-looking behavior could only be interpreted by his rival as the exact opposite of what it was, a sign of supreme, untouchable confidence. First off, he played on Sima Yi's confirmation bias. Sima Yi already believed Zhuge Liang was a cautious genius. So when he saw the open gates and heard the calm music, it didn't challenge that belief, it twisted it. He saw the scene not as a desperate ploy, but as proof, confirmation, that a genius-level trap was just waiting to be sprung. And this was all triggered by what's called the anchoring effect. The very first piece of information Sima Yi got was that shocking, unbelievable sight of wide-open gates. That visual anchor was so powerful that it completely dominated all of his thinking after that. Every other detail, the people sweeping, the peaceful music, was seen through the lens of that first shocking image, which fed right into his confirmation bias. The whole strategy really hinged on creating information asymmetry. It's simple. Zhuge Liang knew he had no army. Sima Yi did not. By putting on a performance that just screamed ambush, Zhuge Liang made Sima Yi believe that he was the one with incomplete, dangerous information. Sima Yi retreated because he was terrified of what he didn't know, a fear that Zhuge Liang planted in his head. Okay, ancient war stories are amazing, but how does this actually apply to us? Let's translate this incredible strategy from the battlefield to the modern boardroom, especially when a smaller company has to go head-to-head with a much, much larger competitor. And this is where you can see how perfectly these ideas translate. Today, the empty fort isn't a city. It's a small startup that, when faced with an aggressive buyout offer, responds with a shockingly bold counterproposal that seems way beyond their leverage. The Zither music, that's the founder's unwavering confidence and poise during the high-stakes pitch. And they use their reputation as a brilliant niche innovator to make that corporate giant ask, wait a minute, what do they know that we don't? The takeaway for today is really powerful. A huge market leader expects a small competitor to be defensive, to be scared. So if you do the opposite and go on the offensive, maybe by preemptively announcing a radical new feature just as they plan to enter your space, you create doubt. You use your agility to make them question their intelligence. This kind of unconventional move forces them to hit pause and reconsider, which buys you precious time and leverage. So, what's the bottom line here? What can we learn from all this? The empty fort strategy isn't just about bluffing. It's a repeatable, actionable playbook for turning a position of weakness into one of incredible psychological strength. So here are the core principles. First, know your opponent inside and out. What do they already believe about you? Use that. Second, you have to control the story with a bold, unexpected action. Third, project absolute, unshakable confidence. Your composure is your armor. Fourth, do the very last thing they would ever expect. And finally, and this is key, see your weakness not as a problem, but as the perfect stage to put on a psychological masterpiece. And that brings us to the final question, the one for you. In your career, in a negotiation, in any competitive part of your life, you're going to face moments where the odds feel impossible. When that happens, don't focus on what you lack. Think like Zhuge Liang. Ask yourself, what is the unexpected, confident move that no one sees coming? What is your empty fort?